speaker today is Jackie Calderone. Jackie is the founding director of Transit Arts, which was created in 2006. In 1998, Jackie was invited to become Kappa's first director of education, and in 1999 created the Capacity Program, expanding on the model of her innovative work with the nationally acclaimed Shortstop Teen Center. Jackie was the creative force behind the Shortstop Teen Center and Third Avenue Performance Space. Her passion for community-based arts was sparked during her 7 years at the Ohio Arts Council, where she coordinated the dance and jazz music programs. She has served on numerous National Endowment for the Arts panels and has designed and led workshops for organizations including Jacob's Pillow Dance Festival, the National Performance Network, the Association of Performing Arts Presenters, Dance USA, and many more. Until 1989, she performed with an ensemble directed by noted choreographer John Giffen, and she continues to collaborate with her husband, national touring artist Robert Post. Welcome, Jackie.
Definitely going to need this. Thank you.
It doesn't adjust.
Okay, maybe I won't. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I will just tell you, I have a voice disorder with the very unromantic title of spasmodic dysphonia. So every so often it just goes out on me. So if I make goofy, croaky sounds, just ignore, or you can laugh with me. So we can go to the second slide, I should say. So you heard a little bit about the history. So we started off in the Short North, in the Shortstop Teen Center, at the old 3rd Avenue Community Church right there at 3rd and High Street. And these were the days when the Short North was the Wild West, pretty much. And so it was pretty amazing to have a chance to develop this youth arts program in the basement of this big old church. And we also developed this beautiful performance space in the sanctuary of the church and did all kinds of amazing things that I won't even try to tell you because we don't have enough time. But after about 7 years, so that was started in 1991, so again, our 30 plus decades. We were going to celebrate 3 decades in 2021, but COVID. So we're having a belated birthday party this summer with a series of performances. So we had a pretty amazing experience at Shortstop with national connections. We were part of the National Performance Network, worked with the Wexner Center, all the major arts organizations. We're pretty much the only youth arts program engaging on this level in Columbus, and actually there wasn't much happening around the country. I was invited to speak a lot about what we were doing. So one day Doug Kryler, who was at Kappa at that point, came to visit and said, how would you like to develop an education program for Kappa? So I ended up moving from the Shortstop to Kappa to develop their first education program. And we then partnered with the Shortstop and the Central Community House, where we are now, for a number of years. And we were based at that time on the south side of Columbus, located between a crack house and a recovery program. So that was exciting. And in all, I do have to say, in all these years, people have said to me, were you worried, were you safe? The only time I had anything stolen or ever had a problem was when I briefly had my office in the beautiful Southern Theater and someone stole my laptop. That's it. Never when I was in the so-called dangerous neighborhoods. So we were with Kappa, and then Doug moved on to the Columbus Foundation. Kappa started changing their focus a little bit and wanted to work more with bringing a lot of kids into the theater. We wanted to stay in the community, so Kappa allowed us to transfer the assets to Central Community House so we could be right there in the heart of the community, which was really exciting. So in we can go to the next one, sorry. We started working 17 years ago with Central Community House, and we developed the name Transit Arts, Artists on the Move, because we were citywide. We wanted to work We wanted to work everywhere, but we wanted to have our home base right there on the near East Side. So we were over there in the Central Community House building on East Main Street in Old Town East. And a few years later, we were able to take the old Central Community House space and the Carriage House and turn it into the studios that we currently have, which are amazing. So Transit Arts has, the way that our families and kids talk about us is that we are family. There's a sense of, like, does anybody remember the show Cheers, where everybody knows your name? That's us. So, we've known kids, the kids who used to come 30-some years ago are now bringing their children. The kids who came to Capacity, some of them are bringing their children. I used to have red hair. It's been a long time. But it's very exciting to see the way that our community has just continued to expand. But the really exciting piece is that we've been able to see the impact of the program over a period of years, because when you're working with teenagers, anybody raise any teenagers? So they pretty much lose their minds till they're about 21 maybe, and they hate their parents, and so we have to kind of mediate that whole situation. But to be able to see what happens to them then when they're in their early 20s, their 30s, and even sneaking into their 40s now, has been amazing, and to see where they've gone. And that's a really privileged place for us to be. The next one is, this is just a little glimpse of our studio. So we renovated this cool old Carriage House, and we have a beautiful green space outside of it that we're able to use. So the space is very intimate, which is really important because a lot of our kids have experienced trauma, whether it's something that's happened within their own families, or maybe their family is wonderful, but they are exposed to violence in the street, or these days, they're traumatized just by going to school because they're having armed shooter drills, and they come to us in tears, just shaken from what's going on in our world today. So we really work to be that kind of intimate cocoon where they can just walk into kind of a safer, creative space and just feel like, okay, I can breathe for a minute before I have to go back out and deal with the world. We can go to the next. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to say, the young people we work with are ages 12 to 21. We kind of stretch that on both ends. Sometimes we might get a very talented little dancer who's 8 years old, and if the parent will stay there with that child, we will make sure that we provide that opportunity. And then we did a special program for a workforce program. We went up to age 24, so sometimes. But our core group is 12 to 21. And something very important to us is providing state-of-the-art equipment and supplies. A lot of times people would come to us, oh, well, these kids, they don't have anything, so we can give them our leftovers and our used up paint and our, the store. And no, we make sure that we have the highest quality materials. They have state-of-the-art music equipment, computers to work on, the latest software, because if they're going to go from us into the industry, they need to be prepared. So that's very important to us. And we can just kind of quickly go through some of our different workshops. So we have writing in all different forms, spoken word, poetry, freestyle rap, which is really difficult. I could never do it. We're freestyle rap. So we just did this at the Columbus Arts Festival, where people just bring up me, Jay Carey, one of our artists who used to be a kid, and people will just show him different things, and he just starts rhyming on the spot. It's amazing. So it's a way to get kids thinking about writing and reading, because they're engaged in something that's important to them, and then they can read their poems at the open mics. They can record their songs, and it makes it more relevant. Every artist that works with our program is culturally relevant and really understands our kids. It's very important. I'm kind of the minority at Transit Arts, but it's so important, especially for our young people, to be exposed to really amazing, a very diverse group of Black men, because there's a real dearth of black male teachers in our schools. So that's a problem that we need to fix. Public speaking. Has anybody here ever been afraid of public speaking at any time in their life? Possibly. I understand it's one of the greatest fears in this country. So this is a really important thing that we do, getting kids comfortable at our open mics so they can at first be an audience member, maybe somebody else reads their poem for them, then maybe somebody stands up next to them when they're on the microphone. But to see kids go from being terrified of being on the mic to being MCs, speaking out about all kinds of things, it is so exciting. One of our project coordinators talked about when he was in high school, he said, you know, the kid that was in the back of the room, I was the kid behind that kid. He was so shy. He is now a program manager at the Harmony Project and gets up on a stage before 10,000 people and doesn't bat an eyelash. He might still shake a little bit, but you never know it. The next one is our dance program. So we have hip hop dance. We're not a ballet company, but we've sent kids off to Ballet Med and other programs, modern dance, you name it, African dance. And we'll bring in guest artists to expose the kids. So a lot of times kids don't even know what they're interested in. And so if they have a chance to meet different artists and have different experiences, it kind of turns on a light for them. So we've performed all over the city with our dance crew. We can go to the next one. Music has become a very important part of our program. We have a fully equipped studio. We work with Music Columbus to get donated instruments so we can send instruments home with our kids so they can practice, because a couple hours a week isn't going to cut it. And so that's really important. I don't know if anyone here is a Malcolm Gladwell fan, but when you think about the 10,000 hours, you've got to be able to practice your skills. And so that's something we really work on. We have vocal music. Deborah James Tucker is one of the artists who's been with us forever. She's an amazing artist who toured all over the world. We do music production. We have a recording studio. We have a band. So the band is made up of former youth who are now professionals and also young people. So all of our programs, when we go out and perform, there is always a combination of younger artists with professional artists, so they share the stage. That's a really essential part of what we do. Excuse me. And so our music, in addition to instrumental music, the forms we talked about, we also have a really cool drum set. So kids we can do things with just bucket drums, but we also have a really nice professional drum kit that they can work on. Next one. Media arts. We have state-of-the-art cameras and video cameras. We work with, they learn how to do the editing through Creative Suites. We've got photography. We have a podcast. It's called Keeping the Recipes, which I thought was such a cool title. We have a senior program with elders, I guess I would fall in that category, but with elders from ages in their 60s to 90s who meet regularly at Central Community House. And our young people wanted to interview them. Some of our young people don't have contact with their grandparents. They wanted to hear their stories, especially during the pandemic. How did you get through hard times? And so it's if you go to our website, transitarts.com, you can see links to our podcast and the videos. It's pretty amazing to hear the voices and stories, especially some of the seniors who are such proper church folks who used to go in their miniskirts to see some of the rock and roll groups back in the day at the fair, and they tell wild stories. The next one is, so visual arts. Our master artist, who I've been working with since the Shortstop days, Deborah James Tucker and BHP are dance artists. We've all been working together for close to 30 years. He has just won all kinds of awards. You may have seen him in Columbus Monthly, the Dispatch. He won the Amina Robinson Award from the Columbus Museum of Art. He won the Ohio Arts Council's Arts Educator Award. We are so fortunate to have him. And he's with us every Thursday night and other days working directly with our young people. So this is we do everything. We've got painting, we do murals, we do sculpture, we do mixed media, we do digital art. So again, it varies depending on the interests of the kids. Sometimes the kids teach us. They've been teaching us digital art. I was clueless, and so was Dor. So that's been a very powerful thing for the kids to be able to share their knowledge with us and with other young people. Yes.
What was the name of the person that won the Amina Rock?
Sorry,
No, I know, I understand.
Richard Duarte Brown. Everyone calls him Duarte,
Okay.
and he's a treasure in our community. We can go to the next slide. So I'd be up here for days if I was telling you everything that we've done, but we always work to engage the families. So we have monthly open mics where we get babies on the dance floor. We have seniors coming out and dancing in line dances or maybe reading a poem or a song. It's an all ages experience, and it's a really important way for us to keep our families connected, because some of our parents didn't have the best experiences when they were in school. And so we find that the educators will tell us they have trouble getting the parents in for conferences and to engage with what's going on with their students, their children. But because we're celebrating their kids, we don't have anything negative to say. We can't tell them your kid's failing in this or didn't show up for class. They really love to come to us, and then we can be that bridge to help them connect maybe with the school or maybe with social services. One of the joys of being a part of Central Community House is because that's a whole other story. Central is a long-standing settlement house and provides services, essential services for people from babies to seniors in the community. Did a ton of rental assistance, utility assistance during COVID, you name it, we were doing it. We didn't get to stay home. We were all essential workers. So I'm not a social worker. I'm not an educator. I don't even know how I ended up doing this, but I love it. And so it's so comforting to me to know that if a child or young person is in crisis, or their family, I have a place where they can go for the support that they need. And so we've also been able to develop counseling services, wellness programs to help support them. Again, there's a lot of trauma out there right now. We bring the whole community in through community dinners, community conversations, where young people can sit at the table with older people and talk about what's on their minds. And we get so many thanks from the adults who say, I never knew that. Thank you for helping me learn how to talk to my own teenager, which is really interesting. And although our program, we primarily focus on the Central City and really work to make sure that we're providing access to kids who wouldn't necessarily be able to afford arts programming. But we don't talk about that in public because these are teenagers. They don't want to be embarrassed. It's not like, you want to be identified as, the kid that goes to that program that's free because we're poor. It's an arts program. Everybody who comes there is an artist. If you want to come from Bexley or Upper Arlington or Worthington, you're welcome. The mayor of Bexley would bring his daughter over. We have had professors from OSU bring their children. And that way of building connection and social capital is huge. And I can't even begin to tell you the benefits that have come from that. We're getting sewing machines set up for the summer. We're going to do fashion, all kinds of stuff. So, and also, if a kid doesn't have to be an artist, maybe they're interested in event planning, maybe they want to do marketing, maybe they want to get behind the camera and document the show. So they don't have to be so-called an artist. People are very scared to say they're artists. It's a funny thing. It feels like, I can't say that. And so the kids really struggle with that. And so we really help them to understand their gifts and pull those out of them. That's my superpower, if I had one. Real quick, we're doing a couple of special programs. So we started a program called Black Girls Glow during the pandemic because our black girls were getting stressed from so many directions. Racism that was popping up in new or more vocal ways. Adultification. Our girls seem to mature physically faster than some of the other girls, and so sometimes, too often, adults are treating them as much older than they are and having much higher expectations. And they're children. We have 13-year-olds who people think are adults. It's crazy. So we started a program where they could just come and be kids. We had a pajama party, just they get gifts and wellness things, and we have a wellness counselor, and just spoil them for a 6-week period so they get a chance to be away from their siblings and the stresses of home, and they get a gift card and a professional photo shoot and hairstyling and all kinds of cool stuff. So that's been very important, and we're continuing that thanks to the Women's Fund. We're also starting a program this summer called Live in Power, Disrupting Violence. I'm sure you've all heard about the Kia Boys. These are kids in middle school that are stealing cars. It's unbelievable. They don't have hope. I've had too many young people tell me they don't expect to live to 18. So they're going to get their thrills right this moment because they might not be here tomorrow. So that's a huge piece of what we do, is help them to understand how their future can be, to be able to meet people who have made it into their adult years, how they did it, and to see that they can take positive risks getting on that microphone and being terrified and get the same kind of adrenaline boost that they're going to get doing something scary and dangerous. So that's super important to us. Next slide. Partnerships. I like to brag because back when I was at the Ohio Arts Council all those years ago, our major arts scene was pretty white. The performers, the board members, the staff, and something that we were very passionate about at that time. And so one thing that we have done is we have infiltrated in pretty much most of the major institutions in Columbus. Our young people, because we built that social capital, I take our young people to CAPA, the Columbus Foundation, Ohio Arts Council, all the places they need to be to develop those relationships themselves. And so our entire staff team came up through the program. They all used to be kids in the program. And so they now know they can talk to Doug Kreidler, to Chad Whittington, to some of the powers that be in her community comfortably. And so they've been able to work at all those different places, CAPA, Ballet Met, Columbus Museum of Art, Harmony Project, Wexner Center, you name it. Legal offices, in professional positions, so we're very proud about that. The other important piece about that is that we used to laugh that we would outreach to the suburbs, because people would always want to do outreach to our kids. And we'd say, let us do outreach to your kids. And so we would take our crew out and perform in Gahanna and Worthington and New Albany, et cetera, and Bexley. People would be blown away up Arlington Festival that, wow, these kids are good. And so it helped to change the hearts and minds of how people who were scared to come downtown because they were so afraid that they were going to run into, a group of black boys. And I said, you know what you could do? You could say, hi, good afternoon. I bet you're going to get a smile, and somebody's going to nod back to you and say, hi, instead of crossing the street and showing that you think they're dangerous. And again, 32 years, never a problem, knock on wood. Next, please. So we've, just quickly, because I know we're short on time, but we've had exhibits throughout the entire community. So our kids get to exhibit work with, like, the Short North Hilton. We've got a mural in the convention center and in the new Hilton downtown, the airport. You name it, we've been everywhere. The next one. We've performed in pretty much every major venue, from Columbus Commons to the arena, to all the CAPA theaters, to the King Arts Complex. Again, you name it, out in the suburbs, McConnell Center, and again, TEDx. How powerful for our kids to be able to not only perform, but maybe get their first paycheck or their first pay for performing, which gives them the confidence to then say, oh, I've been paid for my poetry, I've been paid for my singing, for my band, so that's been very important. Next one. Gardens. We had a beautiful garden over there in Livingston between the crack house and the recovery program. Never a problem. No one defaced our murals. They were protected for all those years. They're still there. It's kind of grown up because we've been gone. But I love the one where the sunflowers actually grew towards the sun in that mural. But we now have a pollinator garden and raised beds for the seniors. So gardening has been a huge piece, helping the kids understand the science of gardening, but also food justice, the importance of pollinators. A lot of times kids are scared of bugs. It's like, no, you need bees. They're important. The next one. So we never really saw anybody doing live painting. We did that at the Columbus Arts Festival years ago when it was down there by the CCAD, and we've been doing it ever since. So when the young person would be on one canvas and the adult would be on the other canvas, and then they would meld their paintings together. So that's been something we've been proud of. And we have murals all over the place. So there's that. Next one. We've been doing, we've published 3 books. One is a coloring book, which is cool. And then also we've started putting recordings out there in wherever recordings go, all those media sites. But we're having our first album press, so we're gonna actually have a 33 album vinyl this year, which we're excited about. The next one. So, of course, here I am yammering on, but there's nothing like actually seeing the kids in action. So if you venture over to our YouTube site or Vimeo, you'll see young people dancing, reciting poetry, interviewing elders, talking about what it's like to grow up as a queer youth and the struggles, you name it, they will share their voices with you. So that was a quick and dirty 32 years. I'm sure I forgot something. Questions? Yes.
I think it's amazing what you're doing. It's fantastic, and thank you for what you're doing for our youth. Maybe you mentioned it, but where do you get your funding?
Thank you. It's an important question. We get support from United Way, Columbus Foundation, the Women's Fund, Franklin County. We get support kind of through Franklin County, GCAC, Ohio Alliance for Arts Education, which that's way too much to tell, but that helps support our program, and also our partner program, Art in the House, that provides arts programming to children ages in grade school. So those programs happen in the settlement houses, and then they come to us as transit arts when they reach middle school. Who am I forgetting? Individual donors for sure. We just got support through Homage, through the Women's Fund, and we just got support from the Johnstone Fund for new music, which we're really excited about, and different family foundations. And very important, we got our very first National Endowment for the Arts grant this summer. And Ohio Arts Council, oh my gosh, I can't forget Ohio Arts Council. So I hope I didn't forget anybody. Yes, I'm sorry.
Well, hi. We work with Windsor School, which is at a high-risk neighborhood in Linden. And I'm hoping that you go to the 5th, 6th grades there and maybe work with the art teachers and say, who would like to be involved in this program? That would be wonderful for these kids.
Thank you. We do, I know that St. Stephen's Settlement House, so we partner with all the different settlements, and St. Stephen's works with Windsor. And so some of our Art in the House artists have worked with those children and educators through St. Stephen's. But even though we're based on the Near East Side, we are citywide. So we'll go to Linden Recreation Center. We don't, COVID hit us pretty hard with the schools because it was so hard to work with schools. So we're rebuilding those relationships now. So for this coming year, we're going to focus more on the Near East Side schools. so we can make sure that the kids can actually get to us. So we'll be working with the 203, 205, 206, 207 zip codes, but we still work citywide with all the rec centers and libraries. Yes, sorry.
I was glad to see you have a course on public speaking. Have you ever considered a course on being a better listener?
Yes, no, thank you for saying that, because that's something very important. We talk, our MC at open mics talks about that, the importance of giving respect to people on the microphone. But in addition, when we have the community conversations, we have very clear rules, guidance that we've put together with the kids, a code of conduct. So that when we do the Disruptor series, we've done this before, the kids wanted to put the title on a football or a basketball. So the person who's holding the ball is the speaker, and everyone else has to stay silent. And then you cannot respond negatively to whatever they said. You can put your own opinion out there, but you can't say no, that. So that's a really important part of what we do. Yes. Yes.
I may have missed some of what you said in the answer to that question over there. Do you have a formal relationship with the Columbus City Schools?
It's not formal, but we work with their family ambassadors and individual principals. So, we're part of we're registered with the schools. So yes and no, we're not a program of the schools, but we're working right now with South High School, East High School, Champion Middle School very intensively, and also we'll be working with the Columbus City Prep for Girls, because those are all in our neighborhood. And again, working through their family ambassadors, principals, and guidance counselors. Yes?
You mentioned to me earlier that you have a very sophisticated way of tracking students once they leave you.
Oh, yes.
Examples as to how that works?
It started out as MySpace when we were with Capacity. And I know social media can be a trip down the rabbit hole, but it's been a great way for us to stay in touch. I have a ridiculous number of Facebook friends, so I'm able to reach out through Facebook, or depending on the generation, because the young kids don't like Facebook, but their parents are on Facebook, so then Instagram or TikTok, so we kind of work on all the different ways of connecting. But I can get to parents through Facebook. So we have, as I said, we've got kids of the kids coming, and then I can talk to grandparents or parents on Facebook, but then we do a lot of texting too, for sure. But it's so exciting to see our former youth around the country and sometimes in other countries who stay in touch with us. And I'm constantly stalking them in the best possible way and sending little messages, because it means something to them. Even if I had a kid come from, when we were in the shore north, we used to go down to the coffee shop. What was the name of that coffee shop? On the corner of, dang it. Thank you, that one. Ryan and I would go and get cappuccinos, and it was an interesting walk, because remember when they had the women in the windows, and that would really fascinate some of our students. They were just like, what is that? But we would get, that was a special treat, just to go and have a cappuccino. So we always joke, he's in Seattle now, about getting cappuccinos, and I follow what he does. Yes?
What's frightening is that, you had that, the women, but you also had a place for guys were. That's part of what astounded me. Across White Castle.
Well, that's true. I didn't go in there. But we were just kind of, the window was pretty obvious.
Well, you couldn't help it, because you're driving by and you're stopping the light, and they're literally right there. It's like,
right, yeah. Our kids got a full education, although, they knew it. And I was saying earlier that, it just always broke my heart. Back then, we had to be more careful these days because of lawsuits and everything. I shouldn't even admit that I did this. But I used to drive around and just pick kids up off the street. Okay, I won't admit to that in court. But, it was just, you'd see, and like the police, they knew one police officer would come play his guitar. We had more of this family connection in the neighborhood. So they would, if the kids were looking like they were in trouble, they'd send them over to us. If I saw a kid out there, I'd just say, hey, come on over to the shortstop. probably wasn't the smartest thing to do. But when I would take them home, it used to break my heart because the kids would tell me, make sure you lock your doors. And I'm thinking, you live here. You're worried about me? You know, they were so worried that something would happen to me. Yeah, I mean, when some of our kids had to go through crazy. But I wouldn't want to be a kid right now either, because there's just so much. Thank you. Sorry.
You mentioned occasionally the kids, or the impact that the kids have if they do a gig and they get paid for it. So I've seen the street dancing, I've seen them from many times there. Unbelievable. If I'm having a party and I want to have some of the kids perform, can I hire them, or how does that work?
That, we're working on that, 'cause it's a little tricky if they're kids. Then that means you've got to send adults, so then it gets expensive, because BHB gets professional fees. But it's something, we started working on a whole social enterprise plan with Leadership Columbus, Chase National, their service corps, and Fisher Serves. We had all these plans for social enterprise. COVID, right smack in the middle of that. So it shut everything down. So we're now in the process of regrouping and really thinking about that. We're working with the women of Wendy's, who they want us to come and do a team building exercise at their corporate office, which is super cool. So they're helping us figure out the pricing, how to make sure that we can make money for the program, because we need to be more sustainable. You can't depend on government grants. It's not a good plan, especially all the COVID money that came through, and that's all going away. So we want to be very thoughtful about how we do that. How are we doing? Time for
one more question.
Okay, thank you for that reminder. Any other questions? We're good. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jackie. I appreciate that very much. And if you can stick around after, some others might want to ask some other questions they didn't think of before. That'd be great. Thank you all. Have a great day.